trecem mai departe la, să spunem, un coleg al dumneavoastră, un pic de breazlă, reprezentantul Asociației Marilor comercianți din România, directorul executiv al acestei asociații, domnul George Bădescu. Bună ziua!
Bună ziua!
Bine ați venit!
Mulțumesc pentru invitație. Având în vedere că domnul Bersero este prezent în continuare, o să vorbesc în limba engleză. So, good morning everybody. Good morning Mr. Bersero as well, and thank you very much for your fantastic input on the multilateral affairs of the European Union. And I mean, we can understand that there is a very exciting and challenging domain, especially now when basically the competition, let's put it this way, between these commercial blocks overlap with this sanitary situation, and of course it is impossible not to make a connection between the two. And we are also watching through our affiliation to Eurocommerce the developments in this sector, which absolutely will very much influence the development of the trade sector in the coming years. In my intervention, I will focus on the, if I may say, the other side of the coin, the inner situation of this trade relationships between the member states and of the European Union and the Commission approach that produce concrete effects on state of affairs, if we may say so, in the internal trade. And of course, I will concentrate on the Romanian side of it. I will just make comments. These are not judgments or maybe ideas or proposals. It's just a matter of fact how the things are on the, let's say, on the field, on the front line. Many directives coming from the European Union were negotiated, were discussed, debated before the occurrence of this pandemic situation. And since we are talking here about these new trends like digitalization or maybe environment, these directives, these regulations in general, although they've been discussed before the pandemic, they have deadlines for implementation as we speak in this period of time. And basically here is we can face a serious challenge, since some of the aspects based on which these directives were studied, were analyzed, and finally adopted needs to be transposed. And beside other variables, like you mentioned, these I would say competitiveness between these trades blocks at a global level. Inside of the European Union, we had some events lately that, in a way, also let's put it in this words, complicated even more the transposition of certain directives. And I'll just mention somehow the Brexit thing, but also the fact that in certain areas there are discussions and even tensions regarding the supremacy of the EU law in the on the territory of the European Union. And the supremacy basically deals with mainly with the economic issues, but also have there are other domains in which the discussions occurred about this basically fundamental feature of the European Union. And going to more concrete things, basically we have, as I said, several directives Since we are in the retail industry, I'm sure everybody's informed about this process of transposing the directive on unfair trading practices, the omnibus package. But not only. Here we had discussions about the e-commerce. And what we can see, as I said, on the front line is the fact that sometimes, or I would say more and more often, the issue of transposing directives is transformed in a kind of a confrontation between the national law, or if you want, the national situation in terms of economic figures, in regard to the what has been adopted at the level of European Union, of the European Commission, of the if you want, of the all the institutions that participated, the trialogue, if you want, level. And sometimes this type of tensions result in text of laws that actually are different from the community legislation, not to mention that in certain cases are even contrary to that. So, of course, it is a long discussion. It is there are many elements that can be invoked, but the result is that sometimes certain industries, and of course the retail one are among these, are put in a kind of a difficult situation, because on the one hand, we have this legislation at the community level, which of course we need to observe and we need to implement. And when this goes back to the national level of transposition, we need also to basically be aligned to that and to implement it. But between the two phases, as I said, there are some tensions that actually put us in a situation where basically we need to navigate, if you want, between regulations that, generally speaking, I use the term regulation in a generic way, expose, if you want, even from legal point of view, not to mention from a reputational one, these maybe economic operators that are doing business, that are performing their activities in several countries, and basically the observance of the principle of the single market is it puts you sometimes in a kind of a difficult spot. This could be even more relevant, since you mentioned the fact that European Union is also in a competition with other economic blocs, and you just mentioned also in your intervention that within other economics blocks there is this issue of subsidies that sometimes basically confer an economic advantage to certain products that are not based as a source in the European Union. And I would say that this is a challenge that needs to be more closely look at it, because if this process will continue to become more and more cumbersome, in the end, basically, the protectionism will surface, and this will become a competitive disadvantage of the EU in relationship to other economic blocs. Because, as I said, if we transfer all this to the front line for a small business or for businesses that basically try to survive, it is very little margin of discretion when they need to make decisions in this respect. Of course, maybe, as I said, this is just one element, one particular element, but is one that we face it on the ground. And from that point of view, I would say that any action, any reconfirmation, if I may say so, of the rules that govern the functioning of the single market is helpful. As I said, this is a small intervention I wanted to make regarding to this particular aspect. Of course, the list is much longer, but since we are also limited on time and there are other speakers, and we'll have a session after that for questions and answers, I will stop here. Thank you very much.